Hey PHD 100, I wanted to quickly review what we've got left and what for final. There's basically the top two modules. That's what you have to work on. It's our current info. The one that was open already through this week is the second one. So we've got physical literacy for youth and long-term athlete development, and this is really the basis. If you think of the lifespan of movement, we obviously start with young. So reading through the NSCA, National Strength and Conditioning Association's description and overview of what long-term athlete development is. This is a web page that's directed to give easy to access information specifically for parents, but makes a lot of sense for us as future coaches and trainers. The lecture that goes with it. There are 10 pillars to long-term athlete development, but I chose the first two just to get started in it. This is a topic you're going to have throughout your entire experience here as physical education or sport performance majors. The notes version just notes by itself, not from the listening version or below. There is a quiz, your initial thoughts on long-term athlete development and physical literacy. Article here from the NSCA, what youth coaches need to know about long-term athlete development, and then a podcast. It is fairly long. If you want to listen to the whole thing, you can. It's called the Strength Coach Podcast by Mike Boyle, who's a very, very well-known and well-respected leader in the strength and conditioning world. And for this assignment, he has several guests on, but Jim Kielbasso is actually a local Michigan strength and conditioning coach. He's the president of the International Youth Conditioning Association, which is currently located here in Detroit Metro. Anyways, around the 43-minute, 15-second mark is where Jim comes on and gives a really, really great discussion and talk of what long-term athlete development actually means. They give several examples with their athletes, and this model was initially actually piloted with USA Hockey. And so they give several hockey examples. And then the last thing in that module is youth sport discussion, and I'll open this up so you can see. There's 7 different prompts that you can speak to for the discussion. So 7 starters basically, and they're already listed here. I've got them started. So you just hit reply to 2 of these 7 that you can give an example, or if you have personal experience. So make sure you read through what the instructions say. Then we'll head back. Once you finish the LTAD model, then you'll close it out. And then you'll head on up to the top one, Foundations of Motor Development and Training Young Movers. This relates to what we did in class today. So there's just some notes I want you to review: fitness and physical activity tips for young movement educators. And this could be if you are a PE teacher, if you have any youth athletes, even youth strength and conditioning. An article from the NSCA related to the developmental differences of training young movers versus older movers. And general info, tips, practices, best practices from the NSCA. A lot of things have changed, I would say, in the last few decades versus maybe what our parents' generation was used to in terms of training. And so, a lot of really good things related to being able to do resistance and some strength-oriented training with younger athletes and younger movers. It's not training them the same way you train an adult, but it is incorporating these styles. And then finally, we have a podcast, another one for you to listen to. This is actually from a former sport performance major. He's graduated now. He owns his own gym, and he trains youth Olympic weightlifters. So these are youth athletes in the sport of weightlifting. Technically, to compete at a national level, you have to be at least 13. But we know that as long as it's done following the long-term athlete development model, we have athletes as young as 6 starting to train in a very appropriate and fun way in this sport, which normally a lot of people would probably freak out if they see a 6-year-old doing Olympic weightlifting, snatching, and cleaning and jerking. So it's an interesting listen to see how he does it. And I've seen him train young athletes. Everything from the equipment to his style, his voice is very appropriate for their developmental level. They don't throw around super heavy weights at all. It's a fun training session, so definitely give that a listen. And then your assessment for this top module, the last thing you have to do is the video analysis. This is what we talked about in class today. So when you look at it, You have to find a video of a movement that's interesting to you. It doesn't have to be an elite level. It could just be something simple. It doesn't have to be a traditional sport. It could be skateboarder, a diver. It could be you just doing something, someone dancing, literally anything. If it's a web-based video, grab the URL of it. If it's an actual video file, like something you have on your phone, just use that. Especially if it's a longer video, identify the time frame that you're going to focus on. So a lot of times a lot of movements are connected together. If there's multiple players, movers, or athletes, identify who we're supposed to be watching and the time frame we're supposed to watch. And then you need to think about the motor skills that are involved combined with the movement concepts. And so the list of them is here. So just like in class, I had all the motor skills, 3 different types. There's locomotors, there's non-manipulative or non-locomotor, and manipulative movements. So everything it applies. You'll have to list and then briefly explain which ones are applied and how they're being implemented. Then same thing with the green, you'll move down to the movement concepts in your answer. You'll list and explain which movement concepts and how location or how directions, how high, low, medium level of height is applied. And then same thing with functional tests. And I added 2 more that also can fall into this category, hang and hinge. So hinging specifically at the hip. Hip hinging is what we're focusing on, and hang makes sense, hanging from a bar, from a rope, from an object. So that is our assignment. Your entry can be a document that you upload. It could be just typing. There's a text box. Upload space for your URL or the actual file, and everything is there for you. So that's what we got. So what you have to complete is in each of these modules, going through the readings and listening, doing the video analysis in the top module, and then in the physical literacy module, making sure you read, watch the lecture, do the quiz, and do the discussion. And then you are all set. That is our final.